Welcome back to the shop. Now I'm probably the last one on this platform to get a blast cabinet. And yep, I got the Harbor Freight benchtop blast cabinet. What I'm going to do in this video is we're going to unbox this. I'm going to show you what you actually get for your money on this thing. Retail price is $119.99. Use one of their 20% off coupons. Puts it just under $100 at about $97 and some change. So let's see what you get for that. And also, we're going to see what do you need to get this thing up and running and what are all those costs. So we're going to find out by the end of this video how much this thing really costs. And then I'm going to give you my 2 cents and see, is it really worth it and should you buy one? All right, let's get this thing unboxed. All right, yeah, you knew I wasn't going to do an unboxing. I'm not an unboxing channel. Well, anyway, this is it. This is what you get. You get a metal box with some gloves in it, and a gun, and a hose, and the siphon tube, and a few extra nozzles, and the instruction manual. And that's it. Now, is that worth it? Well, let's take a look, and so you have a better idea of what you need to get this going. Well, let's take a look at what you do get for your $100. Well, you get a box and some pretty decent gloves, and you get the abrasive blast gun, a piece of vinyl tubing, and the siphon tube. And that's about it. What don't you get for $100? You don't get a light, and you don't get the air hose, and you don't get anything to hook up a dust collection system. You're on your own for all that stuff. So let's take a look at what I've done to make this a little bit better cabinet. First things first, let's talk about the light. It comes with no light, but at Home Depot I picked up this light that fits perfectly in this. It's an LED. It's got a pretty good protective lens, although I think I'll put a little bit of packaging tape on there just as a sacrificial protector on there, but so far it's held up just great. The cost of that, I believe, was 20 bucks, so you'll have to add that in. I also wired it in by cutting a hole in the existing grommet, which I think that's why they put that there, is because they knew you were going to have to put a light in here so you can see what you're doing. Because without a light, you won't be able to see what you're blasting in here. As we're on the inside, another thing here is with the gun. It doesn't come with an air hose, so I bought one of their $6 swivel whip hoses, so that'll make it a lot easier to maneuver the gun around and everything. Another thing to think about, I'm in a very dry climate here, but anywhere this is an issue, is you might want to ground the gun and the hose. So what I did is put some wire around the lead, fitting here, and then ran it to a ground strap on the back of the cabinet, and then I ground it to the floor. And this will keep the static electricity from building up in here and getting a shock when you go in there and touch your part. It's something that can happen. So that's another thing. You might be looking in here and you see, what's this button for? You hear that vibrating sound? I put a little vibrating motor under here. That's another mod that a lot of people do with this cabinet, and it helps settle the abrasive down in there. Now I just have one of these, but I think I'm going to get another one and put in there so there's a little bit more vibrating action and it'll work a little bit better, but I already like it. And that's just a cheap horn button I got from the auto parts store. Wired it up, just routed the wires up through the vent hole for now. I'll probably change that later. Over here on the other side of the cabinet is some other things that don't come with it. You do get this flange part that this coupler I bought is hooked up to. However, it was flipped around, designed for a 2-inch or 2 1/4 inch vacuum hose to just slip fit in there. Well, I decided I wanted a different dust collection system that I'm going to show you in just a minute, so I flipped it around. However, rather than gluing this in case I wanted to remove this or change it, I made a gasket out of just a piece of craft foam and used the existing screws to screw it back in. As you can see, this is where the cord for the light comes out. It has a switch on it. It's easily replaceable. It has a quick connect in there so I can replace that light if I need be. Now this is a 2-inch to 2-inch rubber coupler that I bought at Home Depot. This cost about $4. Goes to this elbow and this hose that came with this kit, the Dust Deputy from Juanita Air Systems. I think that's how you say it. And the 90-degree fittings and the hose clamps and everything came with that kit. That was about $60. And I know you can buy cheaper ones and you can kind of build your own version of this, but I just wanted something that I knew was going to work and be efficient. But your results may vary. It's pretty easy. It just bolts on top of any sealed container. In this case, a 5-gallon bucket. Just cut a hole, drill some holes, use the supplied gasket and the hardware, and you're in business. And what are you going to hook it up to? You're going to hook it up to a shop vac. Now I just have, this is an old shop vac that kind of on its last legs, so I'll use it for this until it craps out and probably buy a dedicated vacuum for this, because where I put this, I'm just going to want the vacuum to stay. I don't want to have to go get it and wheel it around, and space is going to be kind of tight. But that brings us to this connector. I had to get a reducer connector because this has the smaller type hose, and that works just great. And the reason I have this Cyclonic dust separator is because right now I have glass bead in here. And that's silica, and you don't want to be breathing that. Plus, that's really hard. Well, almost all medias are going to be really hard on the filter and the vacuum put through there. And most vacuums, unless you have a HEPA vacuum, which are usually pretty expensive, it's going to just ruin your vacuum. The filter's not going to filter it, and it's just going to blow it into the space that you are working in. So that's why you're going to want to use something like this. These are pretty darn efficient. I've been using it and I have found no dust or grit or anything in the vacuum. It's all in the bucket and it's very minimal, so it does work. I highly recommend it. All right, folks, enough chit-chatting. Let's get to blasting. That's what you came here for. Now I began starting on this workpiece and it had a lot of rust back here. And as you can see, just with this glass media, it takes it down pretty well. It easily strips the paint. Let's flip it over and start in a fresh spot. Here we go. Now the media is still flowing really good here, but as I notice it going down, I can go over here, press my button, and vibrate it down. And it helps it sink down in the hole. But like I said, I need to add another vibrating motor. Before I give my final thoughts on this, I want to talk a little bit about compressors. From the manual itself, it says you need a 1 horsepower or larger compressor, and the air consumption is 10 CFM at 100 PSI. While most 110 compressors are doing good to maybe get over 5 CFM at 90 PSI, air consumption is the heart of how these things actually work, or at least how the gun itself works in there to suck up the abrasive and then get it shot at the workpiece. Now I'm running off of a 12 CFM at 120 PSI, so I have plenty of capacity in the pump, and my compressor doesn't have to run at more than probably 50 to 60% duty cycle. Whereas a 110 compressor is just going to be continually running after it gets down to wherever you have the regulator set, and you're going to probably burn up your compressor, but also that pump is not going to provide enough air on its own to run this gun. So that's something to keep in mind if you're thinking about this unit. With that said, let's talk about what I think of this whole setup here. What you're buying is basically a box, some gloves, and an inexpensive gun. What you need is an air hose, you need a dust collection system. However, you can run this without it, but depending on the media, it's just going to get so cloudy in there you won't be able to see what's going on. And as far as dust collection go, you're going to want to do something to this effect. You don't have to run this exact type of setup, but you're not going to want to run it just into your vacuum cleaner. Now, if you had an ash vac or something, that'd be different, but you'd have to adapt it down because those have a very small hose. But they have the filters to deal with this. The other things is there's no light in this model, and doesn't matter, you're going to need light in there. It's dark in there without a light. Now, I mounted mine inside, some people mount them outside, but whatever you do, you're going to have to add a light. So once we total up this cost, we have a cost to get going and get started and even use the thing. It's getting north towards $200. Now, do I still recommend it at that? I absolutely do. When you start looking at more professional cabinets, for the average hobbyist, I don't think you need to spend that much money. However, would I use this in a shop where it's getting used day in, day out, 8 hours a day? No. No, I would not recommend this kind of cabinet for that. This is purely a hobbyist, an occasional use tool, and that's part of the reason why it's been so long for me getting one of these, is because it's going to be such an occasional use tool for me. It's going to take up a lot of space for something that I'm not even going to probably use more than once a month. I say that and I'll probably start using it a lot more because it's a new tool. But that said, for a hobbyist, you want to just get started in this, and you got some little projects and here and there, and like me, you do some restoration work and such. This is a great tool to have. I would recommend it. I wouldn't recommend this for, like I said, a professional shop. But there you have it. I like it. I'm going to probably be doing some other tweaks to it, and I usually post that kind of stuff over on my website. I'll probably have a whole page. Actually, I know I will. I'll have a whole page up all about this thing, and I'll have all the links to either where I got this or just the modifications, so you can take my ideas along with other people's on this site and make it yours. I'm going to build a stand for this too, modify how you drain the grit out of there because I don't like how they have it, but right now it's going to work just fine for me. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Please subscribe, like this video, and thanks for watching.